All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So today we're going to be looking at the economic form of socialism. Now, you should have on your own done the other last week's Google presentation on capitalism. Okay, so if you haven't done that, be sure you do that. Watch that video because that video, this one, and then the next one you guys are doing on your own, which is communism. Um, it's important that you see how they are connected, how are they different, and things like that in order to understand, truly understand why so many people are so upset when you say, oh, they say, oh, this is a communist thing, this is a socialist thing, this is a capitalistic thing. Um, so you can have a better understanding. Okay. So here are the objectives. Um, Number one, analyze the pros and cons of socialism. Because the thing is, yes, there are some good things in socialism, but there's also some bad things. Okay. Um, Examine the difference between socialism and democratic socialism. Create an argument on having no control over several industries, but you get some perks. Okay. So again, the thing is, you have to remember with this class, my job is not to persuade you, it's not to lure you one way or another. My job is to give you the facts and then you make up your own mind. You decide what you believe. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so here is the warm-up picture. Um, I believe on the Google form, the Google worksheet, I write down three things you see. So there you go. Um, Now again, like I suggested time and time again, be sure you have the Google form on one side, have this YouTube video on the other, and it's going to work very well for you because while this is going on, you can do the work on this side. Um, Again, just to help you out. You don't have to, it's up to you. But that would be my suggestion to help you out. Okay. So again, circle three things, answer the question. What do you think this artist is trying to say? Pretty, if you've ever seen someone do that in real life, you'll know exactly what's happening here. So go ahead, answer it. Pause the video if you're still writing, but we're moving on in three, two, one. Okay, so here's the thing, socialism. You hear a lot of people talk about it, especially like one political side saying, oh, it's bad, it's horrible, this and that. And a lot of times they don't get it right. They don't really give the full information. They just cherry pick things. But basically, socialism is the basic means of production that the government chooses how to use resources. They basically decide how they're going to distribute the wealth, who's going to get it, things like that. Wages, social services, such as healthcare, education, welfare, things like that. Now, the thing is, socialism basically has three main goals. One is to distribute the wealth, because I don't know if you know this or not, but back in the day, like in the 50s, the with the average worker who was working on from guy who swept the floors to the guy in the factory, they made, say $1. The CEO made about maybe like $20, $25. Okay, so there was that difference, a 25% different or 25 times difference. But nowadays, for every dollar the worker makes, the CEO makes, 500, sometimes even more um, times than the worker. And some people feel that's not right. Why is this person busting his back and this and that to, get paid very little, get little, health care and things like that. But this CEO person makes a bonus of like $6 million. Why does that happen? So there's that type of thing. The wealth distribution. The other thing is society's control through its government on all major decisions of production. So the government makes sure that they use their resources wisely. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but back in like the 1880s to like the 1910s, um, John Rockefeller, he controlled almost every single oil rig in our country, and their thing was to pump all the oil out, pump it, pump it, pump it. And what ended up happening is they started selling the oil really cheap because there was so much of it, and they were selling it around the world, things like that. And what ended up happening is the oil wells dried up here. That family made millions upon billions of dollars, and now we have no oil really here. There's like little spots here and there, but that's about it. That's why we have to buy our oil from like Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern countries, because this family basically, well, I should say this one man and his family basically took all the oil from our country. Okay, so they kind of squandered um, our resources. The other one is public ownership of most lands, factories, and other means of production. So again, the government, um, they own some of the land, not complete total control. That's the next system, which is communism. But they do own some land, you know, and the means of production, things like that. What again? What's being created? How they're going to, who they're going to sell it to? Things like that. All right, now this part was supposed to be um, on the not Google Classroom, the Zoom classroom meeting, and basically what I asked was, um, who do you think should control the means of productions, control the resources that our country has? Should it be the government or should it be individual companies? You know, and basically I would have you put your name on whichever side, um, or if you felt it was it really can't be the middle, because I mean, government and industries, they they can work together when usually one wants a favor from the other, but to work together, it's kind of tough, you know. So um, that's why I would say pick one or the other. And since on the Google Doc it doesn't have this question on there, um, just put it on the next question that's available. Just put, I believe government should own the resources, or I believe the individual companies should own the resources. Okay, so again, be sure to write that down on the next available question, then like leave a space and then answer that question. All right, so here's the thing. Socialism, it didn't just pop out, like, or like start really, really long time ago. It actually is a relatively new thing. And it started in the 19th century in industrialized Europe. Because here's the thing, the factories back then, what they would do is, because people wanted the factory jobs, instead of being out in the farms, things like that, uh, the factories knew this. So what they did is they told people, hey, look at, I know you've been working here for a little bit, but here's the thing, there's a lot of people who need a job, and the company basically wants us to like start hiring more people, but the thing is, like, your pay is way too high. So is there any way you can go down to like $3? Because this dude will work for four, and the thing is, I want to keep you, you're hard worker, things like that, la la la. The person says, yeah, pay goes down, they keep their job. If the person says no, well, sorry, we have to let you go. And they would be let go because they knew somebody else would step in and pay for work for less money. So the thing is, companies did that. They made people fight, lower pay, lower pay, lower pay, so that they could work, so they can get at least some money coming in, you know. Um, on top of that, the living condition, because the pay was low, um, that means more people had to live together to pay rent for an apartment. Um, and usually, when you don't pay high rent, chances are that the landlord is not going to give a care about your place. Yeah, because they're like, well, they're paying very little, so why should I care? Or there's so many people, and they're living like this. Why should I care? So a lot of times that's where the slums start to come in, um, and they usually start in cities. Well, same thing with the home condition. The working conditions were really bad to the point where some people got hurt, maybe even died. And the factory managers, owners would be like, "Oh, that sucks. They died, but okay, hire someone else, put them in." I mean, it was just boom. There you go. Let's move on. So thing is, like I said, they were getting paid less, while these people who were the top guys were making more money. Um, Now, this is where some people rejected capitalism, and then they started saying, you know what, we need to revolt. And not just revolt by picketing and chanting and things like that. No, we need a violent a revolt because to them, violence is the way to be heard. Violence was the way to actually make change, force it in a sense. Um, then there were some people who felt, we should build a community, a socialist community, where everyone gets paid the same, things like that. We all share, in the success of the company. Here's the problem with that. No matter how you work out the business thing, um, there's going to be people who need to work on the bottom level, right? The actual getting their hands dirty, working hard, things like that. Then you're going to have people who are going to be the sellers. Yeah, they're not going to get their hands as dirty, but they need to talk and schmooze and do like that to sell their product, or else the company is not going to make money. Um, and that's where the people start saying, well, I'm working hard. I'm actually working really hard, getting my hands dirty, things like that, physical, getting, sweat and all this stuff. You're just pushing a pencil, writing papers. Whereas these people who are, don't work in the factory, they're the ones selling the stuff. They'd be like, well, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have a job because I'm the one selling this stuff. I'm the one making deals. You work from such time to such time. You can go home. I constantly have to work from home. I have paperwork. I have, mine's more mental work than physical work. And that's where some people are like, well, how do you distinguish the difference? Work is work, right? Maybe, maybe not. That's another thing too, where the arguments come in. Who's really working harder? Things like that. So these guys, the workers, they may be like, well, I want to get a pay raise because I'm actually physically working, hard, and these guys aren't. And these guys are like, well, if it wasn't for me, this company would not be working or be functioning. So do you see that dilemma that's happening there? Okay, we're moving on. All right, now this is another thing that we did in class, which was basically you were going to write in the chat box, do you believe violence is the best way to get results? Yes or no? Um, and, again, the next question that is on the Google form, um, you can put your answer there. I believe violence is the best way to get results. I don't believe violence is the best way to get results. Okay. And I guess I do apologize. I did not put these questions on there. Um, it's just when I made this video or made that form, it was like 1:30 in the morning on Monday. So yeah, do apologize for that. So democratic socialism. This is something that a lot of people don't know about uh, because one, the one political group that always says that socialism is bad, it's evil, it's a dictatorship. They don't want to mention this because the thing is, in some countries actually use this. It works pretty well. Socialism, however, straight socialism in a lot of countries, it doesn't really work. You know, so democratic socialism, what it means is basically a way to improve the economic conditions without the violence, without the uproar. It's basically the government is given more control. Now, here's the thing: with the government getting more control, that doesn't mean that people's rights are gone. Okay, like how again some people tend to believe or are told to believe that once you go socialism, that's it, your rights go out the window. No, under democratic socialism, You do still maintain your basic human rights. You still choose your government officials. So it's not like they can say, well, I am the so and so, that's it. I'm here for life. No, no. Basically, like they have a little constitution as well, and there's rules that the government officials have to follow. Okay. Also, this is something that's pretty unique, which our country does have, but we don't acknowledge it really, and that's a multi-party system. Now, when I mean multi-party, it's not just two like we have right now. We have Democrats and Republicans. We, we have other parties. We have the Green Party, Tea Party, Libertarian. So if you watch the capitalist, or no, sorry, not capitalist, the political party lecture, which was like 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I believe. Um, you hear me talk about that. We have different parties, but a lot of people tend to want to be with the big group, because they want to, in a sense, kind of like be with them, even though they not believe exactly 100% what they believe. They want to be with them because chances are they're going to win, and that's how a lot of people are. They see the bottom, political parties. That's they're going to lose, so why join them? You know, so a lot of people tend to jump up to Democrat, Republican type of stuff. Okay. Again, in this system, the government does own the basic means of production, and they make most economic decisions. Okay, they don't make all economic decisions; they make most. Um, and some people feel this is good because there's some information that the government knows about that private companies probably don't. Because again, governments um, usually have their hands and they have knowledge in other countries, so they know what's going on, what's up. Sometimes some private companies they don't have those resources. You know, they yeah they may have lobbyists, they may have this and that, but they don't have that information, that really deep background information that they could use to help them out. Now, some countries again use this: Tanzania, Denmark, Norway, Sweden. They've used this. And then the thing is, like, they would control stuff like the steel mills, shipyards, railroads, airlines. But on the flip side, because their taxes are higher, all their health care is taken care of. All their medical needs is taken care of. So someone could just straight go to the doctor and that's it. You don't have to pay nothing. No copay, no none of that stuff. Um, and if you've ever had someone in your family go through cancer, like I have in my family, um, it can be really expensive when they have to stay in the hospital for so long. It can be pretty expensive. Even some charitable, you know, corporations they may pay for some, but still, it's gonna still hurt you. You know, but in these countries, they don't have to worry about that because their taxes take care of that, and the country basically feels that these guys are workers, and the only way we can get production is if our workers are healthy. So they basically go and say, yeah, we need you healthy. Go see the doctor, get your medication, whatever you need, so you can basically go back to work. So here's the part where I tell you the questions are the next question. So if you answered those other ones earlier, those two, so that's fine. If you didn't, you should really go back and answer just that one sentence. Answer those questions, and it should be within this slot where this question is. Do you think that it is a good trade that the government controls all means of travel? Again, uh, shipping yards, the trains, planes, things like that, and the main item used for construction, so steel. You know, steel is again still used to this day for making buildings. Used as a frame. But in exchange, you get health and medical care. All right. Now, again, the government can stop like a plane saying, you know what, there's only like so many people, it's like half full, maybe not even that. Yeah, why waste all this fuel for that? No, no, no. Let's cancel that flight. So you'd be forced to take another flight to another flight, a lot of connecting flights. to get where you're going. Um, if something happens, like they need to take something from one place to another, they would stop your train so that, you know, whatever resources need to go from one part of the country to the other, it would have priority over you. Okay. So think like that, but also think the healthcare thing. You could just walk into the doctor's office, set your appointment, you don't have to pay nothing. So do you think that's a good trade? Okay. Think about it and tell me what you think. Okay. So pause the video, write your response, but we're moving on in three, two, one. Now, those who are against socialism usually say several things. One, they say it takes away from individual incentives and the initiative, which is, in a sense, true because the thing is, um, if you're getting paid the same as somebody else, would you really want to work harder if your pay is not going to get better? You're just going to get a title. Now your title is manager. Ooh, more responsibility, but the pay is still the same. Would people still want that? And chances are no. The initiative to, hey, let's get this done. Let's get this done quick. It's like, no, we're still going to get paid the same no matter what. So let's just do the job, so that unless you really love your job for whatever it is, you're not going to progress. And if you do progress, you're not going to get paid. You're not going to get compensated for it. Okay. They also say higher taxes are going to hinder the economic growth. Now, again, yeah, you will have the health care, some of that, but everything else, it's going to go down the hill, So, like, let's say, um, I buy these little, pop figures. Um, if I'm paying a high taxes and I'm only taking home, let's say, a couple $100 per check, I can't buy those things. I have to save my money, just in case something happens, or for food, you know, rent, whatever it may be, you know. So the freedom to, oh, I have plenty of money, I can buy these little things. That basically goes out the window. They also say that the increased government regulation, some people think that it will make the government too big, and that a big government is a bad thing. Again, okay, now that again, that's a personal decision, that's a personal belief. If you think big government is a bad thing or a good thing, that's whatever you think. Okay, again, no one can tell you you're right or wrong, it's your belief. But they also feel that could lead to dictatorship, that the people in charge would say, well, we're going to be in charge now and we're going to control this and that. And because they look at other countries that's happened, that had socialism. Here's the problem with that argument, what I say. Um, in our country, a lot of our soldiers, I mean, a lot of them, the ones I've talked to, they're loyal to our country, not a person, not a group of people. Okay, they truly believe in what our Constitution says, you know, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and things like that. They believe in the individual's rights, you know, and if a person, a president or a congressman or whomever says, no, we're going to be the, the main group, this and that, um, I could see our armed forces basically saying, no, no, we're not going to cage up citizens. We're not going to do all this stuff because that goes against what we believe and what our country's about. And again, they truly believe in what our country is about. Okay. So again, that's my take. That's from what I've seen from the soldiers I've talked to and things like that. So that's like one argument I go against when they say about that. But everything else is basically makes sense. Um, and that's why I like this political cartoon over here too. All right, so here's your next question. Based off what you've learned and what the decision you made in your own mind, do you think that socialism could work in our country, or do you think it wouldn't work? Now, before you go on, just remember this. In our country, you help people say, we're a capitalist country, we're a capitalist country. We're not. Again, watch that video, the one you're supposed to do last week, and you'll hear me explain to you that we don't have a capitalist country. We are a mixed economy. We do have some socialist programs in our country. We have, yes, we have welfare, but it's not just welfare for, the poor people. We have welfare for farmers, farmers aid. They get money when their crops are going to like basically frozen or die or disease so that the farm doesn't go under. The farming industry doesn't go under. Same thing with like WIC. WIC is a is seen now like, oh, that's not welfare. It's not, because part of it's paid by your taxpayer money, but a large part of it comes from the U.S. Treasury, which means it comes from the government, and that's the whole thing of socialism. If the money comes from the government, then it's socialism. It's a socialist program because the government pays for it basically. Um, and But that's the thing. So a lot of people who don't like socialism, they'll try to spin it saying, "Oh, well, that's not welfare. That's not really socialism." And it is. WIC is. A farmer's aid is, because they're taking money from the government. Okay, so go ahead. If you haven't finished that, writing that out, go ahead. I'll pause the video in 3, 2, 1. So here's the thing, the exit ticket has changed from previous lessons because some of you guys were being very, very vague. It was obvious you weren't listening to these videos and you just basically wrote down whatever. So I made it so that you had to choose between one of the objective questions, and here are the two. What are a couple of the pros? Remember, couple means two. What are a couple of pros and cons of socialism? So what are some good things? What are some bad things of socialism? The second one is, what is the difference between socialism and democratic socialism? So you're going to put them against each other again and look at them. So if you've been taking notes, you're good to go. Okay. So with that being said, that's the end of this lesson. Hopefully you learned something new. There will be another video coming up for communism. But then next week, we will be having a test. It will be in Google Form. It will be on the Google Classroom. So be sure that you have your notes ready if you've been taking them. If you haven't, I would suggest you go through and rewatch some of those videos and take down notes of things you don't know. Okay, and again, I've highlighted some red parts so that you knew which was important, which wasn't important. Okay. So again, you guys have a good day. Take care and be safe, you guys.